Welcome to the first of our weekly updates for the Energy Sovereignty Project. I feel like I should have a bottle of champagne here to uncork. We are now at week 1 of month 1. All right, let's take a look at our first week. How exciting. Well, on New Year's Eve, we raised a champagne bottle, popped the cork, and poured a toast to all of you and to the Energy Sovereignty Project, and kicked her into self-powered mode. We had charged the batteries to 100%, and then we figured, well, part of our first test, let's just see how long the home will go on self-power. We knew we had a couple days of good weather, so we'd be able to kind of see how that went. And we knew that you know, that it was symbolic but idiotic. Charge the thing to 100% in the middle, to start it off at midnight, because obviously, you recoup all and then some of that charge during the day. And so we just had kind of fun with that, shaking out the system, making sure that it wasn't going to kind of kick itself out of that mode, and ran great. That first day. We solar produced 24.6 kilowatt hours. Home used 33 kilowatt hours. So everything was running well. January 2nd was also sunny, and so that gave us kind of a really cool thing to see, 2 sunny days back to back. And so really January 2nd was our first look at what the system would lose on average, or how it would perform on average in a sunny day in winter, with basically it peak performance for that time of year, and did pretty good. The percentage of solar when we hit that first point where solar was contributing to the system, we looked at the battery percentage, and it was 78%. And so basically you've got this 20% loss of what the home will draw. And so then we looked at, okay, well, now it's interesting to look at that total solar day. Remember, really important for calculating how well your system's doing. That first number, the percentage when you just get to the point where you actually start to produce solar, that's important too. But really, that total solar day production, really important. And so the total solar day percentage, 91%, 8% drop or so, right in line with what it was that we were seeing. The total production for the day was 22.8 kilowatts, and total daily home usage was 29.4 kilowatts. Really good, really good. So then the next day, we knew that we were going to have a maintenance day. Now, we discussed this before a bit with in regards to our solar inverter that kept receiving a frequency fault, and we were trying to figure out what could be causing that frequency fault. Well, we found it. What was going on was I finally had to put put one of my oscilloscopes on the system to see what was going on, and it was throwing out a frequency of 61.5 hertz. So outside the range at which the Solar Edge inverter would accept, and then it would trip off. So that's weird. why is it doing that? And so then, you know, we tried some experiments broadening the threshold of fault on the solar edge inverter, and the power walls just increased their frequency further. So obviously something's going on. The power wall is actually shutting things down. Call to Tesla. What it turned out to be was the internal temperature. Well, there wasn't snow on the ground. It was chilly, but it wasn't that cold. And so then what we discovered is that Tesla had set the internal temperature threshold for when you are off the grid, when you have no grid power. They set it at 54 degrees Fahrenheit, 12 degrees C. Why? Why? That seemed really artificially high to me. Now I get it, they're trying to protect the system, but now here's the kicker. Let me play you this video clip and listen close. Here we go. That's the fans that are on just before we did the test. Why are the fans on? If you're telling me that then the very next thing they're going to do is to shut off because the system's too cold. So that was strange. Well, so it turns out the rationale is that when you go off grid, when you turn the utility power off, the system goes into an emergency mode and it says, oh, I have to save as much power as I can in the battery, and so therefore I'm going to turn my heating loop off. All right? Well, to me, as an engineer, if I worked for Tesla Energy, I would immediately address that, and the way I would address it is, if you're producing over a certain amount of solar power and the system knows that, turn the damn heaters on. Why sit there and do battle with yourself and not turn the heaters on? It's like I'm watching the government shutdown or something, right? It seems to me that the solution to this is pretty obvious. Rather than to have the system say, well, I'm just not going to produce any power at all, rather than scavenging some power off of solar to turn my damn heaters on. So fix that. And again, tongue-in-cheek, right? You know, it's all good. These are all software fixes. These are easy things for people at Tesla to fix. I'm hoping that someone at Tesla is actually watching some of these videos. Feel free to forward them. I'm not trying to be mean about any of this. These are all just items that any consumer is going to see. That's why we're doing the project, to get some of these minor niggles taken care of that we're stubbing our toe on all the time. So at any rate, thought you'd be interested in that. Kind of artificially high, I would think, and then especially if it's, you know, pouting and saying that it's not going to turn its heater on even though it knows that it's got plenty of power to do so. So got that solved. It did suck down some of our power, unfortunately. Because we had the system turned off for part of the day, we didn't do as much as we could. It was also kind of partially cloudy too, so we wound up being able to produce about 18.5 kilowatts. We actually had to use some of that power, interestingly enough, to trick the system, because we were trying to verify that what they were telling us was true. And so the way that we verified that was we actually plugged the car charger in and set the car to charge at, it was 16 or 18 kilowatts, something like that. And that, sure enough, warmed the inside of the battery up enough so that when we shut the solar off, it accepted it, or when we shut the grid off, it accepted the solar, and it worked fine. And oh, so that brings up another interesting thing. Again, Tesla, if you're listening, the app, when you see the app, and it goes into that emergency mode where, you know, you turn off the grid and it goes into this cool. I'm going to pull up a screenshot of that here. So let's see if I can find it. There it is. You know, when it goes into this, you know, this special disaster mode and tells you that your grid power is shut off, somewhere on that, please show us the internals of the internal temperatures. it's a critical thing to know. If you're going to tell us that, oh, you can't charge the batteries because they're too cold, then throw us a bone here. Give us access to that information. So anyway, enough on that. So we lost a little bit of production for that day. Brings us to January 4th. Partly cloudy. The total solar day percentage for that following day. Now the battery has come down to 51%, and so now we're starting to look at, okay, well, what's our projection going to be? Well, so we're going to go ahead and let it run another day, and sure enough, so we let it run January 5th. Rains are starting to come in. They've got rains and high winds predicted for the next couple of days. So we know that our solar production is going to be down. So we figured, okay, well, let's see where we're at. Well, when we finished January 5th, actually when we finished the total solar day for January 5th, come to the near the end of our production or middle of our production, we're at a decision point now, because we're sitting at 18% of total capacity. And we know that we've got several days of stormy weather coming in. And we also know by looking at the app that Tesla has not engaged their storm watch. Again, because they don't think that this storm is severe enough to merit that. And so now I've got to make a decision. And so let's pull up a couple of screenshots here. These are showing a pretty cool graph that Tesla provides through their phone app. This one showing the solar energy for the day, 2.2 kilowatts. And this one, it shows the usage. We were using the Powerwall right up until just before solar production was going to start. I didn't feel that there was going to be enough charge put on that day to merit staying on, so I turned the grid back on. And so then here, this next one, this is the result of turning the grid back on. Boom. So now what you can see here is the time that I switched the grid back on. And then this next one shows our total use for the day. We did some entertaining that night, so we had the ovens on, we had the heater on, we had, we were doing a couple loads of laundry, and so our total use for that day was 42 kilowatt hours. But at any rate, so the point I'm making here is that this brought us to our decision point, right? And Tesla wasn't going to give us access to the storm watch, in which we would be able to then charge the batteries to 100%, because they didn't feel that the storm was going to be strong enough. But I'm looking at this. Let me show you here's my weather app, and so that shows that I clearly know what the weather is going to be like the next couple of days, and so that's why I made the decision to turn the power back on, see how much of a charge that I could get for that day, and get us ready for the next day, the 6th. Wow, it was raining really hard and really windy on the 6th here in Sacramento, and funny enough, we had a couple of power outages. We had a power outage here at the studio, and never wanted to miss an opportunity to poke the stick at this whole, we're not going to let you charge off the grid thing. I rushed over to the Energy Sovereignty Project home with the idea that I was going to do a little talk on on how we only had 18% in the battery, and you get the idea. But by the time I got there and got the equipment set up, the power had come back on. The power outage lasted about 45 minutes, so 40 minutes. And but the point about that is that Tesla has become the arbiters of at what point a storm reaches that threshold where it's going to be bad enough that they're going to magnanimously allow you to do something that the battery was advertised to be able to do. So that's annoying. And again, the power only went out for 40 minutes, but it could have gone out for 6 to 8 hours. It's done that before in this area. You get ground saturation and high winds, and a tree falls over on a substation or something of that nature, and isolated areas can lose power for a decent amount of time. So, you know, that just kind of rubs me the wrong way. But anyway, it's what it is. But obviously, now what we've got is that we only produced 3.6 kilowatt hours of solar that day, and I was actually shocked it was even that much. So then we come around to the 7th, another very cloudy day, but kind of a cool thing happened on the 7th. We had this strange break right at, you know, where you'd have maximum production of your solar. So we actually did wind up pulling 15 kilowatt hours out of solar that day, which was pretty good, I thought. And so what we'd been doing is that on again, like I said, what was it, on the 5th, I had gone back into a charging mode. So we're trying to, now at this point, we're trying to put charge back into the battery. We've got still some stormy weather predicted for the next few days. I'd like to have a decent amount of power in the battery. And so basically every bit that we're producing in solar is going straight into the batteries. And I'm going to go ahead and try and get the batteries back up to 100%, and then we'll go back into that zombie apocalypse mode again, where we turn the grid power off. I want to see how the batteries cope over multiple days now that we know what's going on with the heat in the battery. You know, what does that look like the following day? Can we get past it? And so that basically brings us up to speed for that first week. We'll be, you know, we got 53 more of these to do before we start the next year. So that's all kind of interesting. Back just really quick to the maintenance day. One other thing I wanted to mention about that is that we're going to be keeping really close track of the maintenance days. Now, I don't expect that we'll have too many days where we do scheduled maintenance, right? But I do plan that there may be an incident or two where we'll wind up having another one of these unscheduled maintenance days where something may not work quite right. And this doesn't necessarily mean that I have to call Tesla to find out what their solution is, or have to bring someone in from Sunworks to mess with anything. I will claim a maintenance day even if I have to go in and manually do something to the system to make it work, whether that's throw some blankets over the power walls to try and get them to warm up, or anything that I have to do manually to try and bring the system to a point where it will actually function. That'll all be recorded again, because these are all things that you as the consumers are going to need to know when you're firing up your own systems to do this. So that brings us to a close on this first week. Thanks for joining us. Again, feel free to like and subscribe if this is the kind of thing that you like to see. Have a look at our past videos, see what it took to kind of get us to this point. It's also very important to know that that these videos are to a large degree content driven. So if you see something that you might like to see us address, some tests that you'd like to see us make, or some information that you'd like in greater detail that maybe would merit a video, comment. Let us know. I try and respond to the comments. That might become more difficult as this has become pretty popular, but I'll try and respond personally to as many of these as I can. But know that the comments that you make are getting read, and even if they don't get a direct reply, they will, in no small degree, dictate what our future content will be. So again, thanks for joining us, and good luck with your own systems.